Can everyone hear me? Perfect. If you've called me over the phone or booked your ticket, this voice may sound familiar to you. Hi, I'm Lindsay, the Public Programs Coordinator at the James Monroe Museum. I'm very excited to have you all here today. Just a few housekeeping rules. This year we are going till 12:30. We have the food and refreshments out until 12 o'clock. So if you would like to get any refreshments during the time, feel free to take a step out, right out that door back there. This leads to the staircase, so you don't want to go that way. Does everyone have their red ticket? Okay. We are going to be doing the drawings throughout the event. Guard those tickets with your life because that is your ticket to getting a prize from Jan. So, welcome. We're excited to have you here today. Just a few other things. We would love to have you join us for our last hurrah of the year for our holiday open house over at the James Monroe Museum. Next week on Thursday from 5 to 7, we'll be celebrating the holiday season with a free open house. We'll be featuring James and Elizabeth Monroe, seasonal music played on the harp, and Monroe's family Astor pianoforte. Later, we'll also be having a reception with holiday beverages and treats, and also museum store specials. A little birdie told me we'll be selling the White House ornament from last year for 50% off, so you should stop by. So this woman needs no introduction, but I'm still going to do it today. Today, we welcome back a dear friend to the museum, Jan Williams. Jan's been known as the Fredericksburg region's premier floral designer and has created her lush English garden style for over 40 years. As an award-winning floral designer, Jan has been a guest designer at the White House. Her work has been featured in the Southern Living magazine, Southern Living Books, the Freelance Star, the Richmond Times-Dispatch, and numerous other publications. She has presented to the garden clubs, church flower guilds, museum groups like us, and other audiences over her lengthy career. Her Deck the Halls Christmas demonstration at the University of Mary Washington with the James Monroe Museum has been a sellout for over 25 years. We're thrilled to welcome her back today. Give a hand for Jan.
Thank you. Welcome. Glad to see everybody. A lot of familiar, probably all of you are familiar faces. Is anybody this their first time? Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, this has been going on a long time. I was just standing here trying to calculate it. But I am positive I was probably 38 or 39. I was still in my 30s. Wait a minute. No. I was earlier than that, maybe 30, 31 when this started at the most. Because my father died in 1978 and I was 27. And it started very near, not long after my father died. So that's how because he would have been here if he was alive. So that's how I can kind of calculate it. But I try to bring things that I think all of you can attempt and do. And everybody's like, oh, yeah, but you can. And, what I try to encourage people, it doesn't matter if anyone else doesn't like it. All that matters is it makes you happy. Make yourself happy first. And if they don't like it, too bad. They can go home and make their own. And so, you just have to do these things to please yourself. And I'm going to start with something very simple, and I thought this would be something cute in the kitchen. And you can use a poinsettia in it, or you don't have to have poinsettia in it, but you can buy these very inexpensive, these little 4-inch poinsettia plants, and all you need to do is make sure you just keep it evenly moist. And all plants do better. Poinsettias like heat because they're from Mexico. But most plants do better not real hot. Cyclamen, or as in England they call them cyclamen, do not like heat. That's why you don't see them for sale except colder weather months. And they particularly like a cold night. So if you have one, put it in your coldest spot at night. And you'll notice it'll last longer. They're very temperamental about the heat. I used to put them in planter boxes on the porch. And they did beautiful until it got like 20 or 10 degrees, that cold. I've put just a little plastic liner in here. And the things that work great are some of these food liners, like this. This is just a bowl, that you have a snap lid. They work out great for liners. And you can save liners, from things if you use Cool Whip or stuff like that. I don't use it, or tubs of something. And you save them. They're great liners. And I've just wedged a couple little pieces of Oasis in here. And then I'm going to put And you don't have to, people say, oh, it takes so much oasis. Well, it can, or you can fill in around it with some cones. And I'm good, because I done this a long, long time, 50-some years or longer. Maybe, yeah, much longer, 60 years. And I just stick some pine cones around it to fill up the space. Okay. And then I'm just going to green it with some native greenery. I've got all kinds of stuff up here. The college staff that works on the grounds has cut it for me. That way I don't have to do that too. And someone asked me one year, I usually take some of it back with me. And the reason I do is because right before COVID started, we didn't know COVID was going to start, a friend of mine and myself, it was Easter, and we decided, we knew a lot of older people, we knew people who had been sick, we knew people who were shut-ins, and we said, we're going to start making something for them at Easter and Christmas. We make little boxwood Christmas trees, decorate them, and I know my way around real well from delivering all those years, and so run them around and leave them on their porch. You wouldn't believe some of them won't throw them away. I mean, one little lady wrote me a letter and told me it was like May, and she didn't want them to throw it away. I thought, oh gosh. So try to, do things. That's another thing. This can bring you joy, to do things for people. Maybe they can't put up a Christmas tree, and that's the only thing they're going to have. And there are people out there that don't have children close, or maybe didn't have any children like me, and so they don't have anybody to do those things for them, so they just don't have them. So something simple like that means a lot to them. And you see, I'm just putting some boxwood around it. Yes, we do. They listen to me. They did a really good job this year. They had picked it a little, I think, sooner last year, so we had to tell them, don't pick it too soon because it can be too dry, and don't pick it, certain things, too short. I had a lot of short, no tall branches that I could use, and I thought, uh-oh, because they're getting older and retiring too, and so we have to break in a new team. And then they cut me some of the native pine. Yeah, it does smell good. I love the smell of evergreens in the house. That's why I like fresh tree, because it smells so good. I know a lot of people don't want the mess, but there's nothing like a real Christmas tree. And I can tell you where to get the best one. Deep Roots Nursery on 29 going to Orange. When they come in there, they're cut and they're in water. They're never out of water. And about 3 or 4 years ago, we got one there, and then another friend came with us and got one there. Then another friend went over there and got one, and they all said the same thing. Those trees lasted beautifully. And he has beautiful fir, beautiful. And they have a lot of the stuff there too. It's a nice little nursery. I get it through my wholesaler. I had really good relationships with my wholesalers. We were good friends for years and paid my bills on time, and had a great relationship with them. And so, I'll say, "Oh, y'all don't want to come and bring me just that." And they said, "We'll bring it to you." And they're so nice. But it comes back to you, when you treat them. They were my friends. I mean, I talked to them every single day. I knew all about their children and their pets and everything. See, I'm putting a little bit of that white pine around it, just because I like Virginia native greenery, since we're in Virginia. And the one thing I think I really like is I do a lot of fancy things, but sometimes the simpler ones are just as pretty. Just evergreens and berries and cones are beautiful on their own. You don't have to have tons of stuff. to make something nice. I think we get into that thinking, oh, I don't have the right thing, I don't have this, I don't have that. Most of you all know I'm still living basically where I was. And Heather and Jason Cohen bought my old house, and I'm living in the little salt box next door. Well, I've been out of it since July 5th because we're doing a bunch of work on it. I'm hoping maybe end of this week or next week we can start getting back in it. But I'm in the guest house, and so Heather told me a couple of weeks ago she's on the board of Hope House, which is a wonderful charity. And she said, they called me, this was on Sunday, and the luncheon was on Wednesday. She said, they called me last night, they don't have any centerpieces for the tables. I said, well, how many do they need? And she told me, I said, that's no problem. We'll do that, we'll whip those out. So she had a bunch of different kinds of containers, and I had some. I said, I don't like the same container anyway. How monotonous, 20 things all alike. Where do we ever get into that rut? So she said, yeah. So she had gotten these cute little Santa boots, about this big, up in New Jersey. So we had 4 of those, and we used 4 something else, and I had a bunch of stuff. So anyway, she said, should we? I said, no, you're not going to buy anything. We don't need to buy a thing. So there's a lot next door that used to be the Freelance Star parking lot. And of course, they're using it as a, yeah. They've got all their equipment stuff on there. Of course, they know me now. And and I have these Lelands in my yard, but I have to go to that side to cut that side. And so I went over there, and I was cutting Lelands. And one of the guys was out there, and I said, these hollies on the parking lot, which they had a few blow down in that horrible windstorm a couple summers ago, and they finally cut them down. They let them lay there forever. And they're growing back, but they still have some big ones on the street, and their branches are hanging over. I said, I think you all care, I'm going to trim these branches, because they had beautiful berries on them, Japanese hollies. And he said, I don't care if you cut the whole thing down. And I wanted to say, you better be careful, but I didn't. So I trimmed those up, trimmed up the Lelands, trimmed up a bunch of other stuff. We made them all with all the stuff we just trimmed around the yard, and it was great.
Wholesalers, where would you recommend picking up Oasis?
Yeah, that's a loaded question. There's lots of varieties of wet foam. Oasis is the original. There's Aquafoam, that's a good one too, that are higher quality. So I don't know where some of these places find this real inexpensive, low quality stuff, but I warn people, you'll notice the bricks are smaller, the color isn't quite the same. And if they're wrapped in cellophane, and I've told you all this before, and they're in fluorescent lighting, that's deadly. Because when you take the cellophane off, you'll notice they're kind of light brown. It's a cellular structured product, it has chemicals in it to make these things last longer. And the reaction of the cellophane and the fluorescent lighting does that, and it kills those surface cells. So you really want to buy it from somebody who doesn't put it in plastic. Which isn't easy to find. Wegmans would sell, it was an Oasis brand, but they did sell some, but they don't even sell it anymore. I don't know why. I didn't ask them. But so you just have to keep looking. We don't really have, in my opinion, a high-end garden center here or craft store that sells nice floral supplies or the kind of floral supplies that we would sell them. We sell anything we use because people needed them, but you don't find that. So you just have to look around, keep trying to find it.
Dan, what about online?
Yeah, you could go to Amazon, sells everything, but everything. Oh, you want Oasis or Aquafoam, but I don't know if they sell. I think I don't know. I don't know. I've never bought it from them, but I know they sell it. And they sell a lot of the supplies that are better quality than what you're going to get at any of these craft stores. Because believe me, I've looked when I'm in emergency. This is that green glow, which shines up the holly. The holly this year is gorgeous, which you know what that old tale is. Yeah. Now, whether it's going to come to fruition or not, I don't know. Snow, that it'll be a bad winter. But don't go, oh, because we need groundwater. It was serious this summer and this fall because we didn't get enough rain. And if you don't have that groundwater to back you up, and you do have a lot of hot weather and drought, you're in trouble. I lost stuff. Of course, my water's been cut off since the 6th, 7th of July, when they had to cut that off. And so I was dragging hoses from Jason's, and then I was telling somebody, they said something about, I looked well. I said, well, I am well, but I had a little bit of a long summer. I was supposed to have a knee replacement the 10th of July. And you know me, I was just running around like crazy. And they had told me we decided on it in April. And then I had some oral surgery going on, and then I couldn't eat. And then I got really busy with Garden Day and all kinds of stuff. And then I went to England the 10th or 12th of May with my niece, and came back, and my little nephew got married again in June, around, I think 24th of June, and she'd never been married. Well, she'd been married, but she didn't have a wedding or anything. So we just had a little family wedding, but I had to make it really nice, of course. So I noticed, and I'm going to tell you all, if you notice something, don't just chalk it up to aging. Get it checked. I had noticed that sometimes I felt tired than normal, but I just thought it was because I was so busy running around. And I noticed I had these lightheaded spells, but they would pass quickly. So I thought, oh, it's just age, and I just kept on going. So I went for my pre-op on the, I think, 25th of June, and then next morning, and I felt fine. I felt fine. The nurse knew me. She said, oh, you're, great. And she said, the only thing when I got ready to leave, she says, we probably are not going to hear from us, but if you do, it's usually not a good sign. I'm thinking, okay, I went on my happy way. The next morning early, I was getting ready to go to the dentist because, I can't have any dental work for 6 months after the replacement. So I was going to get my teeth cleaned, and they called early, and she said, I thought, uh-oh, and I saw Mary Washington Hospital. She said, you're severely anemic. And they went into all this stuff. I had to get this, get that, do this, do that, eat this, eat that. I'm like, oh, okay. But they didn't tell me how anemic. So I had to go off to the dentist. I didn't have time to worry about that. So I did. And so then I left there, and they told me to go get 525 milligrams of iron. Yeah, I was right. So I go looking for it. Of course, I couldn't find it. So then I ended up at the health food store, and the gentleman there said, I can't imagine that they didn't know that you're not going to be able to find that over the counter. And he said, I have a 500 milligrams liquid. And I said, okay. He said, take that. It was a vegan liquid. And I said, that's fine with me. I'll get that. So I got that. And then when I went to the doctor, he said something, because I had to call my primary care right away, and he said, He said, they didn't give you a script? I said, no. They told me to go find it. He was like, I knew then. And he said, oh, how ridiculous. You're not going to find that. And he said, what did you? I said, well, I found liquid, And he said, how much did that cost you? I said, $60 for 30 days. He says, you need to be on it for at least a year. And he said, I'm writing you a script right now. 90 pills cost me $4. Yeah. So be careful. If you can't find something like that, just call the doctor's office and tell them. Now, see, I mixed in a little bit of holly. And then I brought some little peppers to spike it up for the kitchen. And you could probably use, I'm going to cut these up. You could probably use toothpicks, and I forgot to bring any. But they might not be long enough. But so anyway, long story short, I didn't get the surgery. There was a big deliberation and carrying on about whether to give me a couple units of blood and then go for it. But because, and like one of the doctors said, now, I'm not saying you're old. You certainly don't look it. He said, but at your age, he said, I don't like that idea. And I said, well, I'm going to do whatever you all tell me. So, I'll be fine with it. So I didn't get it till the 19th of September. But be careful, because I had noticed my hair thinning and falling out. I thought it was I didn't know what it was. I should have, because it was pretty bad. And my nails not growing, and rapid heartbeat, all signs of anemia that now I know. So be careful, because as we age, not that I'm saying any of us are aging, our red blood count will go down naturally a little bit, but not that far. So you've got to be careful. And they ran all kinds of tests. I had upper and lower. I had endoscopy, colonoscopy. I had camera things, you name it. But they couldn't find anything. And it could have been a small bleed and dried up, and they couldn't tell it. And in combination with the teeth thing and everything else, it could have, caused it. I still think that's what it was. But I'm fine now. I just got to keep checking on it all the time now to make sure. But at least I have a little idea of that it isn't just aging. So don't poo-foo it too much. I think that's what I did. I'm just warning y'all, if you feel that way, get it checked. And I've been so healthy, I only go to the doctor once a year, because I've never had trouble.
Do you feel that the red or the white poinsettias hold up more? Because I feel like my white ones always die right away.
You do. There's different varieties, and of even red and white. Different people, grow them, and they're different cultivars. So some probably are stronger. The grower that I used to use all the time, his were great, but we were careful with them. They're really sensitive. Yes, they're from Mexico. So what does that mean? They're a tropical plant that blooms at Christmas time in Mexico, because it's a whole lot warmer than here. And I tell people that, and they look at me, and we'd have customers that, in a hurry, and they come in and get a beautiful poinsettia, and they didn't want us to wrap it. And I finally said, look, you tell them, we don't wrap it, we're not responsible for it. Because if it's 25 degrees out, that's really cold, or below 32, even below, they don't really like it below 50 or 45. They can be shocked. And I go into stores, and y'all have seen them, and they have them near the door, big mistake, because that cold air is coming in, and they kind of look like this, like they're wilting. It's because they're too cold. And once they get a shock, you are not going to change that. And they're going to die much faster. The leaves will start to drop. It's the result of that shock. So you've got to carry it. We would wrap them and sell it. We wrapped them pretty anyway with beautiful ribbon on them, which you can't find that either. And cellophane around them, because we wanted them protected. When our truck would come with them, he'd pull as close to the door as he could get, and I had everybody, and they're wrapped in plastic. And we were all grabbing them and running in with them. That's how careful you have to be. And a lot of people are not that careful, because they don't know enough. They're selling something they don't even know anything about. That's the other problem. But, you've got to take care of them, or they won't last. And pardon? Yes, well, they crossbreed them. I go to a little greenhouse in Farmville, Virginia, that's wonderful, and they have some very unusual colors, corally colors and everything, and they just work on them and crossbreed until they get what they want. And they've got the little different shaped blooms now. They've got the serrated edges and the littler bloom, and I like all those variations. I think it's fun to see them. And then I'm just going to stick a few little pine cones in here. Find the little ones. These are just Virginia white pine. I love them. I'm just tucking them. If you've got it at home, you're not taking it on a delivery truck, you don't have to go through the steps that we had to go through to secure everything so it wouldn't shake out and fall out and everything. That's not going to happen sitting around your house.
I love poinsettias, but my cats would eat them.
Yes, you got to watch animals. There's only certain parts that are poisonous, but my cat won't bother anything. She only eats one type of food and one type of treat and nothing else. Won't eat people food at all. And see how cute that looks? And if your peppers die, they're easy to replace. Get a bag of these little peppers. And
We gotta do the raffle for this one.
okay,
And you'll come grab it at the end.
okay. Now I'm going to do a wreath, and I'm going to show you. Y'all remember, I'm sure, how I always do it. I started so it's save time.
Gotta pick one.
Okay.
Everyone got your golden ticket out? Okay, 834 7682. 834 7682. Awesome. Okay.
Okay, Ray, front row. As y'all know, I always talk about straw wreath frames. Another hard thing to find. Don't ask me why. Probably many of you don't remember, but years and years and years ago, where Roxbury Mills Garden Center was, there was a wonderful craft shop there. I can't remember the lady's name. I loved her to death. She really knew her stuff when it came to crafts. And they sold straw wreath frames. We sold straw wreath frames, the proper type. Somebody told me they had them at one of these craft stores around here. I go, look, they're this wide. I'm thinking, you can't put anything in that, you know. And they are wrapped in green, and I brought that. I can buy it in rolls to rewrap them, or cut up a trash bag, a dark trash bag, and make strips. I've done that before too. I'm desperate. And the first thing I always do is put the hanger on it. So I put it on before I started greening it up, because you don't want to have to try to struggle after you get all these greens on it. And what do I always do when I start my greens? I poke holes in the wreath first to loosen up that straw twine that when they're a new wreath, they're tight. I always do my center laying down, so I end up with 3 dimension. And I do the center around here and follow it in the same circle, same direction. Then I do the outside direction. I'm going to finish that piece. And the boxwood's nice and woody, so you can do that. And I have picks up here too if I need, or fern pins if I need them. Lindsay's going to hand me some boxwood here, yeah. I've got some more here too. And this is nice boxwood. This is the way you trim boxwood. You aerate it. You don't shave it. And if you have to clip it, it should be clipped by hand, never by machine. Because it burns it. It takes much longer to recover if it's burned on the ends. And I've seen people, get with trimmers, electric trimmers, and I'm like, oh my God, Yeah, those things are dangerous. Just like azaleas shaped like balls. And forsythia is shaped like balls or squares. Oh my gosh, I can't stand it. Yes, you want them to flow. That's what they're supposed to do. Have be beautiful, not shaped like a ball. I'm just filling this in. You're losing all the pretty aspect of the shrub. Good grief.
Do you remember the first time
And
you made a floral arrangement?
yes, the first time I ever made a floral arrangement, I was probably about 6 years old. And I did the decorations for my school's front doors first time when I was 11. My principal lived down the street, loved him to death. Haley Settle from Westmoreland, down in that area, and nicest southern gentleman in the world. He lived down the street from me, he and his wife. And I said, Mr. Settle, I think I'd like to make something for the front doors of the school for Christmas. He said, you would? I said, yes. And he said, well, honey, you make it, and you come down to my house, and I'll go with you and help you hang them. I said, okay. So I hate to think what they look like. They were now, I wish I had a picture of them. They were swags. And I don't know where I got the ribbon. I don't remember now. I guess I got it out of something. And he just carried on. Oh, they were so beautiful. Just on and on. He was wonderful. And then my 7th and 8th grade physical education teacher and librarian, because it was a small government school and they doubled in duties sometimes, was Dwight Stork, whose son has the Stork Funeral Home. And Mr. Stork, he can tell some stories, I'm sure, but we became fast buddies. And I would pick flowers on my way to school because we walked to the government school. My father was a civilian, not a military, but we lived on the base, which was very rare, never happened at any other base. But if in Dahlgren in the late 40s and 50s was bringing in all these engineers and scientists and mathematicians, there was nothing there. I mean, nothing. You may think there's nothing there now. Well, it's like downtown New York now.
They have a museum there.
Yes. Oh my gosh. My mother, the first time she saw it, was like, oh, And so we even had commissary and exchange privileges. Yeah, it was quite something. And we went to the government school. So I would walk to school and pick flowers on my way, and then fix flowers for my teachers and the library. Oh, I think back at it, I think, oh my gosh. And we had a little bulletin board in the library. It actually was only about this big, but I would every season decorate it and design it and everything. And Mr. Stork would carry on about it. And now we laugh. I said, yeah, you would have thought it was the size of a roadside. And so then he taught me everything to do in the library. So if he was sick or had to be away, we had what they called library hours. Each class had them. So they would pull me out of class, and I would do the library hour for the children. I mean, the things we did, you think, you got to be kidding, but nope, that's what happened. But I was in junior garden club. Let me just get this up and show you. Yeah, see how that's going? Which I loved. And we had a very active garden club at Dahlgren. And I think at 10 years old, you could join the junior. I think that's when I joined. And my second year in there, we always had a spring flower show with a schedule, which is a list of the arrangements and descriptions of what you're supposed to be depicting, which sometimes I think are really difficult to decipher. So even now as an adult. So I said to my father, I said, Daddy, I don't really know what they're talking about. And he's looked at it, he said, well, either do I. And I said, but I don't like the schedule for the juniors. It's just, I don't like it. And he said, okay. I said, I like some of the ones for the senior. And he said, well, does it say you can't enter it? So we looked all over the thing. Nothing said I couldn't. So he said, well, I guess you can. And down the street from us lived a little lady. Some of you may have known her. Miss McHugh. Bob was her nickname, is what we call her. Martha was her first name. And her nephew is Bill Beck, who has a shop here in town. And David Beck, who's an attorney here in town, was they were great nephews. And I knew her nieces and her nephew that she lived with, who was David Brown, who I call Big Day. And Bob was president of the garden club. But later she moved up here and did the flowers at Kenmore, and anybody in the garden knew her. She was wonderful. But anyway, she was president. So the night of the show, when you enter, your name is on a card and it's turned over, so the judges do not see the name. We got over to the community house where they had it, and when we went in, of course, Ba knew my parents real well, and she told my dad, she said, I need to talk to you, to my father. And I thought, well, she said, Jim, we had a problem. But she said, I'm president of the club. And she said, when they turned the cards over, I had entered 3 categories. She said, Jan won a blue ribbon, all 3. And she said, it did not go over well. And she said, they wanted me not to let her have it. And she said, I said no, because we had nothing in writing that said she couldn't enter. She said, that wasn't fair. So she said, if you hear any griping, she said, that's what it is. But I overrode him and said, no, we can't do that, because we should have had that in the rules. But she was right about that. So years later, when I came back from going to school in Boston, the first garden club I spoke to was that garden club. And I reminded him. We all laughed. It was funny. But Ba, she wasn't going to stand for that, bless her heart. And when they lived up here in the Carmichael house that Big Day bought, and it had apartments in it when he bought it. And a lot of little ladies lived in it. And he didn't have the heart, of course. He was a gentleman through and through, Southern gentleman, to tell them they had to leave. So he let them stay. and he slowly redid the building as one would move. But Ba had an apartment, and he lived in an old house next door. He couldn't even live in there. That's how sweet he was. He wouldn't displace anybody. And anyway, Ba, when she was getting frailer and frailer, one day Big Day showed up, and he had some of her flower holders and gathering baskets, and he said, she wanted you to have them. I know, I have them. I would never part with them. And the old-fashioned frogs and pin holders, I have tons of those. A lot of people give them to me because they don't use them anymore. They don't know what they are even. Yeah, we use them now. They're getting away from Oasis a lot. You have to use it in some things. You have to use it in things like I'm doing, but in a deep container, we're using chicken wire. And I sometimes don't use anything, but I've been doing it so long I can do it that way. And when I'm using smaller pieces on here, y'all remember, I use these little pins that we call greening pins or fern pins, ferning pins. Years ago they were ferning pins. Now they're greening pins, I think. But anyway, she gave me all those things, and I just treasure them. Because when we were packing up my little house, of course, then here I am, anemic, and the fatigue was kicking in. Like my doctor said, yeah. He said, it takes a while for your body to catch up. And I was starting to feel, I never felt that way in my life. And now I have a lot of empathy for people when they say they're having, trouble with fatigue. It was awful. So Heather was over there trying to help me pack, because I had to pack everything in my little house, which was a lot of stuff. And so Jason goes, now, Jan, are you going to, what did he say, get rid of some of this stuff? I said, Jason! I said, no, he's like, I said, Jason, but I think what happens, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe we're all that way, or a lot of us are that way. I said, I don't have children. I have all these pictures of pets and kids and everything that are memories. And I wonder if, because we don't, we hold on to this stuff even more. And I have things people gave me from the time I was a child, and I just can't part with them because I look at them and I think of where they came from, and I said, oh, I don't know if I can get rid of any of it. I have a lot of it, but, oh, Lordy. Yeah. You see, I'm a strong believer, and I know that the society we live in now is throwaway. That's what I call it. Get rid of it. If you're not using it, get rid of it, which is fine if that's the way you feel. But, I don't want to get rid of, things that were my parents or my grandparents or, things that mean something to me. Yeah, I mean, some of the old, especially old furniture. Huh, the new stuff, Lord, but, to each his own. I mean, if you feel you want to purge, go right ahead. And I have a friend that just lost her husband, and she was a wonderful caregiver to him. And she said her children are on her to get rid of her house and move to some, retirement place. And she's very physically fit. She's very mentally capable. And I said, is that what you want to do? She said, no. Exactly. I said, I'm sorry, but I don't get this segregated living idea. And she laughed. I said, well, that's what I call it, segregated living, 55 and older, which is fine if that's what you want. But I had a lady who was a customer, and we became friends, and I loved her. She was quite a character. And she said her husband was a retired colonel, and they moved to one of those places when they came to Fredericksburg. They're originally from Connecticut, and I guess he retired from Pentagon or something. They decided to stay in the area. So they had been living there about 2 years, and she came in one day and she said, I got up this morning and I told, her husband had a nickname, I'm trying to think of it, we're out of here. And he said, huh? She said, yeah, we're out of here. Because if we're not, we're going to be old before our time. And he said, yeah. She said, oh, what do we listen to every day? All about aches and pains and this and that. And she said, no. She said, I don't think that's healthy for us. So they put that place on the market and moved right on out. She was something. And, I think it's fine if you need that and you're ready for that and you want that. But I don't think you should push people into that, into getting rid of all their stuff and, purging everything and all your memories. I don't agree with it, but
Now, how do you keep this box look fresh?
you just, if you put it outside, you're not going to have any trouble. Unless we have a heat spell. And I don't think that's going to happen. And we may have one warmer day or something. But like tomorrow, we're supposed to have tons of rain. And the rain will, even if it's covered, it'll get moisture, some moisture. And the cold will keep it nice.
That form isn't soaked in anyway.
Oh, no. Oh, no. The only kind of form that years ago we used to use that was soaked is called sphagnum moss. Can't get them. That animal left town. You can't buy sphagnum hardly. Maybe you might be able to find it in a big city. It was a loose moss, and you took a wire frame, and you had the plastic stuff like I'm showing you here. You soaked it in water. You wrung it out, and you piled it on it as tight as you could get it. Then you took like wax thread that we used to use all the time, wound that around it, then you wrapped it in the plastic. But it was very heavy, but the metal frame would support it. But you don't, pardon? No, that's Spanish moss. Sphagnum is what, it's a type of the green and brown moss that you see in the woods that they just grind it up, kind of. But you don't really need it, huh? I'll probably need a little more. You don't really need it if you here because it gets cold. You don't have to worry about it. I know one year we had kind of a heat spell, and if your house is on the sunny side and it was getting direct sun, and the other thing I caution people, I think y'all know it, don't ever put them under a glass storm door, ever, because it's like being in a greenhouse. The heat traps between the storm door and the front door and just cooks it. So you don't want to do that. I've even had people that had permanent things that were hot glued and the glue melted and the stuff's hanging off of it because that's how hot it gets in that, what you're creating there with that storm door. Especially if it's in a sun location, that's what you end up with. So be careful because then you'll be very upset that you went to all that work and it dies on you. But that's the reason. It's not that you really did anything wrong, it was just where it was. But there's nothing like fresh. I have a good friend who has a dental office, and for years they've been having me make fresh wreaths for all the girls that work there. And those girls get so excited. It was so cute. I think I took them over there Tuesday, and they're all decorated different. And some of them never had a fresh wreath before their whole life until she did that on their door. And they're so excited. They come running out to help me. It's like they won the lottery. I told her, I said, these girls, it's so cute. It makes me so happy that I could do something to make people that happy. And they're like, we look forward to this. This is the most wonderful thing. And they're just so excited. And that's what Christmas is about, doing things like that, making people happy and giving them some joy. I remember one person I took one of those Christmas trees to. It was sleeting that day, I think. And I just put it up on the porch. They know me, but and sat it there and under the eave. And as I was getting in the car to leave, he came out the door. And one of their children, who had been ill, but she had died just a few months before, in her 40s. I know. And they lost another daughter, sickle cell anemia, when she was in her 30s, I think. But they were both getting older, and I figured they probably didn't have anybody to put up a Christmas tree or do anything. And the nicest, wonderful people who have always done a lot for everybody else. And I saw him come out, and he saw it. And, of course, they saw me pull away. I don't know what I put on the card, but, of course, they had my phone number. They called me because they're the same people that one Valentine's Day we took something to the house for them, and my little nephew ran it to the door. I think he was maybe 12 years old. And he said, he picked up their newspaper, it was laying outside. And the wife came to the door and he said, "Lovely flowers for a lovely lady." He made that up himself. I didn't tell him. And handed her the newspaper. Well, she was so touched. And she was so upset because she didn't have any cash at home to give him a tip. Which, you know, he didn't expect that anyway. But that afternoon, here came her husband. There are people, some of you know, I know him really well. And with a $10 bill to give him so he could split it with the driver. And so sweet. And I said, "You don't need to do this." He said, "Yes, I do." My wife was so tickled. And he told me what he said. She figured I told him that. I said, "No, he made that up himself." But she was just so impressed by his manners and the fact that, you know, he even had the paper for her. And and she said, "They need to be rewarded." And I thought that was so sweet. Mm-hmm.
I'd like to share a little something. You were talking about giving that gift,
Mm-hmm.
doing something small.
Yes.
I'm in a garden club, and we just did like 70 arrangements in a Christmas book.
Uh-huh. To take.
It's going to healthcare.
Yes.
We did it for Meals on Wheels before,
Oh.
but you can find those Christmas
Yes.
books, you know,
Yeah, everywhere. Yeah.
and they're small, so
Trying to find.
that's a good idea.
Yes. And you sometimes little teeny things like that thrill people. I want this stuff. And I used to do this big thing every year for McLean Mid-Atlantic, which is, they supply like 7-Elevens and places like that for their truck drivers. And one year we had a terrible storm. It was really wind, I think, horrible wind. And some of the roads that the truck drivers travel even got shut down for 24 hours or so. It was high winds. They couldn't go across bridges, and it knocked out power, and it was all kinds of problems. So they had to cancel. Well, I made them 150 arrangements every year for this special dinner they had, and they would give one to every wife. So they called me up, and she said, "You just have to bill us." And I said, "Well, I'll pull out anything I can," because they wanted to do it in two weeks from then, and save, and then I'll just like ribbon or something like that. And she said, "Just give them away." I said, "How about this? If I take them to nursing homes, somebody to a nursing home, and tell them they're from McLean Mid-Atlantic?" And she said, "Okay, if you want to do that." I said, "Yeah." So I took them around. Oh my goodness, they were thrilled. Number one, what was I going to do with them? And I didn't have room. I had to get rid of them because we had them all over the store. Yes, this is a blue cedar. It's gorgeous this year too. That's another sign, they say. Save snow. A lot of winter weather. But like I said, usually even if it's bad in a couple days, it's, I remember that one we had a few years ago. Remember right after Christmas? That blast, I call it, was warm on Sunday. And I'm sure we were all saying the same thing. "It's not going to snow. It won't stick," And then about 4 o'clock in the morning it started because I kept looking. And it was such a heavy snow that I went outside with brooms and everything else because garden week. And I didn't want the branches torn off everything. And oh my gosh, I could hear them cracking when I was outside. It was terrible. Now this is blueberried cedar, which is so pretty. Again, this year, look at those berries. Whew, I love it. And I used to call it farm cedar because it's a native. It's not a cultivated like a juniper. It's not juniper. Juniper has much bigger berries. Where's my hanger? Make sure I know where that is. And that's the other thing. Always remember, watch where the hanger is when you start to decorate. Line it up the way you want it, or you'll be mad at yourself again. Because you get everything on it and you're like, "Oh no," And I've also got some Deodora that I love. And the prettiest ones I've ever seen were at Kew Gardens in England. Of course, they're very old, and they love them. And there's a great walk there. Has any been to Kew? On that great walk, you see all those metal obelisks, and on top of them are bronze deodora cones. I told you they love them. They do love them. And I brought the rose cones with me. Here, where are they? They're up. Yes. These pop off the top of the deodora. The deodora cone's about so big, and these pop right off the top of it. And they look like a rose. And anywhere I see a deodora tree, I remember and go walking in the early to middle, fall. Usually October's a really good time. They start popping a lot. And I mean, you just pick them up. They're all over the place. And nobody is going to get mad at you for that. There's certain areas, they're everywhere for those few weeks until they get smashed.
This even has the tiny
It does?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's got little ones, yeah. And if you get a tree in your yard, it'll take you probably approximately 5 to 8 years to get the first cones.
Wow.
But they can grow pretty fast. My neighbor planted one in the back of my yard when they had the little red house, as we call it. And I think I counted it. It was between, I think, about 9 years when I found the first cones. But they grow pretty rapidly. And they have that graceful branching. See, you can tell that. It's just beautiful. And the color, that blue-green color, you can see against the other green, it's just beautiful. Now, I'm going to hold this up and show you what I'm doing. I'm kind of elongating some, so it's coming off the side of the wreath for a little bit of gracefulness. I'll show it to you. And you can do anything that you want to do. I mean, depending on what your house looks like or your front door looks like and how much drama you want. Pardon?
It will look better with that on it.
But you know what I mean. Some people like really simple, and that's fine. And some people like it, more gussied up. And that's fine too. It takes all kinds to make the world go round. That's what I say. I don't know what's wrong with a lot of people, but hey, I think variety is the spice of life. Come on. If we were all the same, it'd be awful boring. I know.
I can imagine you like with your scissors with you at all times, stopping.
Oh yeah, I keep clippers in the car. You're right. It's got me in trouble a few times because people think if I pull over quick and jump out, especially people who are gentlemen like my father, would get out and say, "Are you okay? Do you need help?" And I'm like, no, I'm just going to pick these flowers. And then they laugh. Good.
Trying to save you from.
Yeah, I've had that happen too. One time I was on 95, and this was years ago. I know now I shouldn't do that. And I saw a box turtle trying to get across the road. And I thought, oh my God. So I pulled the car over real quick. Luckily, there was no traffic coming at the moment. Grabbed the box turtle, and then I ran across the road to put him, where I thought he'd be safe. Well, just about that time, here comes a state trooper. Oh, yeah. He pulls up behind my car, and he said, when I get back over to the other side of the road, he said, no, that's right. I hadn't gotten to the other side of the road. I was in the medium strip. And he said, ma'am, what are you doing? And I said, I'm saving a box turtle. And he said, I said, they're endangered. And he went, yeah, not as endangered as you are right now. So he helped me get back across the road and put the turtle down in somewhere where he could crawl off to something. And he said, please, don't ever do that again. And I said, okay, I promise you I won't. He said, it's just too dangerous out here. And that was 20 more years
I
ago.
would probably do it again.
Yeah, I know. It's just,
Did it for a cat the other day.
yeah. And that's why my vet used to always talk to me about keeping Myrtle May in a carrier when she was in the car. He was adamant about it. And then something tragic happened locally, and I realized exactly what he meant, because the dog was killed, and then the girl trying to save the dog on 95, because, yeah, somebody hit her in the back and took off, and in the ensuing commotion, the dog got out of the car. It was a little pug. And took off across the road. Pug was black. It was just getting dark, and she took off after it. Neither one of them made it. I know. Oh. So I thought I could hear Larry's words ringing in my ears, how strong he felt about that. Now you can see it. Now I'm going to decorate it real quickly. Yeah, hopefully. So I brought a couple ribbons. This is going to be a subtle coloring. I like red and bright colors too, but I like sometimes, depending on the color of the front door, what color. It could be a dark green or that bluish green color. One thing I do caution people about is putting a dark green wreath on a dark green or black door and nothing else on it. You don't even see it. You might as well do nothing. I've noticed a couple of them, and I look and I say, oh my gosh, you can't tell that wreath even on that door because it was so dark. So, pardon? Yes. Yeah, you have to look at it and say, what's going to show up on this? And put something in it that'll show it up. Now these are all good ribbons from the company that I love called D. Stevens, which you're not going to find in Fredericksburg anymore. I sold it, but I don't know why. Don't ask me. It holds up beautiful. Even this silk. I use these plaid silk taffetas on the front of my house. I have bows 4 years old, and every year I take them off, take them apart. They've been in rain, snow, ice, no fading, no fraying, no nothing. Yeah, they're not inexpensive. This was, I don't know how many years ago. I didn't have a price written. Yeah, $250 a yard, and this was probably 8 years ago. But they're wonderful. So invest in the good stuff, and you can, use it over and over, especially inside the house. It doesn't give out. It doesn't. The other stuff fades and frays, and it looks old. Yes, yes. Using it, I know. The other day we had a garden club meeting, and one of the hostesses was a person that I make these wreaths for every year, and her best friend too. I make wreaths for her every year, and they will save all the stuff off the wreaths, the ribbons, the decorations, and they incorporate it in the garden club decorations for our luncheon. And I said, wonderful. I'm glad. I'm hoping people save this stuff. It's nice. It's not, it's something you can save and recycle. And I'll do another one and show it slowly, but this is a little different. This is thick. The rosette ribbon is thick. So your hands have to you have to hold it really tight to get it to do what you want. I'm going to put my thumb knot now just because I have a shorter piece of ribbon. And you can put the thumb knot at any time. Some people start with it. I don't. I usually end with it. But I'm doing it now because I'm putting it on the angle this time. So I'm watching how the size I want. But it is thick, so don't be alarmed if your hand hurts. When you first start doing this, it's just because you're not used to it. Mine are hurting from doing it too much, too many years. I said my next stop is Dr. Constantine. Yeah.
Do you still use Cutco scissors?
Yes, ma'am. Because you know what? Nothing else is going to cut this without chewing it up. And I can't stand it when it's chewed up. The Cutco are steel. And all you have to do is if they get dull or anything, you send them to Cutco, you'll get a brand new pair. They are guaranteed for life. And they mean it. As long as they're still in business, I hope. Because sometimes quality things go away because people think they're too expensive. And in the throwaway mentality of some of the younger generation, that's why we lose some of these great companies. Because they don't understand if you pay a little more, it's going to be with you your whole life. Now the last time I bought them, they were $125 a pair. I probably bought 12 pairs. I don't know. We would lose them at work because they'd scoop the stuff off the table. I'm sure they went to the trash. But they also, somebody who does fine sewing and millinery and clothing, they'll cut silk. The other things won't cut it. They just chew it.
They have a museum apparently.
Really? Well, their stuff is wonderful. I never had anything from them that wasn't wonderful.
You've been to the Cutco Museum, right?
Yes, I dragged my child with me.
Oh, good. I mean, it's their stuff, and they stand by it. That's no fat, just tale to get you to buy it. That is the truth. And I've had people come in and say that sharpen scissors. I can sharpen those scissors. No, they can't. Because they can only be sharpened on a special machine because they are steel. You can't carry that machine around with you. I've let them try. They can't do it because they'll argue with me that they can do it, and they can't do it. And then you're scared. Be careful because you don't want them to mess up the scissors. Although, if you send them back to Cutco, they'd still send you another pair, even if you did it. They would. They're that good a company. I'll turn it around so you can see it.
I love the blue.
Yeah, this is a very subtle bluey gray, and it has a little bit of brown tone to it. The D. Stevens are two sisters that own that company. They're born in the 50s. They're so wonderful. And one of them does the design, and one of them is the financial person. And the sister that does the design spends at least over half her year on a houseboat in Hong Kong Harbor, because that's where they make the ribbon. She has to be right there with them, supervising colors. And I'll hold this up so you can see it. Okay. And then I'm going to put something in it real quick. I spotted these somewhere, I don't know where, and I thought, I like that color. That might come in handy for something, because some colors are just, you don't see them. Now I'm just tucking them. What I do is I tuck them around and get them where I want them before I start to glue. Then I glue after I've got them positioned, so that you don't make a mistake. That way I can see where they're even. I've got that. Okay. Be very careful. Hold this out away from yourself. It's very hot. I have been burned quite a few times. And sometimes you might say some bad words. So you have to be very careful. Because I use high temp. The low temp will not keep this stuff on it in all kinds of weather if you use a low temp gun.
Always want to do a hot glue gun check before we start.
Yep. These are styrofoam actually, underneath, so they're light, so they're easy to. I bought them, I think, at Marshall's or someplace like that. I just saw the color and I thought, that could be really pretty with that blueberried cedar. So when I see stuff, I just get it and throw it in the shed. It might be months ahead of time, or then when I'm going to use it actually.
And we call you up.
Yeah. Well, I'm always anticipating something. I'll use it for something, so. Because sometimes when you go in to look for things, when you need them, you can't find them. So if I see them, I just get them. Because I don't have time to run around constantly. Running around getting stuff takes most of the time. Oh. Yeah. I don't know what I was doing something. And if you wait till the season is, upon us, you can't find as much stuff. because everybody's looking for stuff. Yes, yeah. Oh, that'll be it before Christmas is over. I said, I don't know why we got into this rushing our lives away, but well, I haven't got my Christmas decorations up yet. I've had 3 calls wanting to know if I was all right.
I was thinking the same thing.
Really?
I didn't see 'em up this year.
Well, the reason is that, we hadn't finished yet. And I was waiting for the electrician to finish some stuff out front. And I've got all new windows, so I've got to get all the stuff off the windows. But I can tell you already, that's 100% better because the noise you can imagine on the street. Oh. And that's why I said if I can just get new windows so it'll be warmer and cooler and, and then the noise. And so we got really good windows, Pella, and they are good. I can't get over how much quieter. I can even tell the heat. Oh, they're ancient. Yeah. And it was noisy as the devil with these hot rod cars. I'm like, when gas was really expensive, I thought, well, this will slow them down. No. Noise, noise, noise. And one night I almost called the police department, but I feel bad for them because they've got so much to do. And it was 1:30 in the morning. I think they were drag racing on William Street. But I know an attorney and a judge who live on Caroline, and they've called also because of the same thing, drag racing. You can tell by the way they're gunning the cars. And I'm thinking, it's 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, but people get off work and college kids leave the bars and somebody can get hurt. And then it's too late. But I've seen them come down William Street at 7 o'clock in the evening when those restaurants are really busy, just right up from me, and the ice cream place where people with families and children speeding, terrible. I'm so scared that somebody's going to get hurt.
Are you hot gluing the branches on?
I'm just doing a little bit of this around the bow. You'll see. I like that touch around the bow. And I'll show them what I've done so far, and then I'll finish it up. One of y'all are going home with it. Now, if your door isn't going to go with it, I'm sure you won't take it. You'll give it to somebody else. Now, to pick up the brown, I'm going to put some of these brown cones in it. Oh, okay. Get a new one. I agree.
Your fan base is very different.
I used to tell my father, but my father had very creative too, and I'd say, Daddy, I don't like that storm door. He'd take it off. Yeah, he took it off. We never put it back on. He didn't like it either. He said, you're right. It looks much better without it. And one time I was home making stuff, decorating the house, my parents, and my mother said, oh, she's such a mess, because in the store, we had concrete floors. We just throw it on the floor. Clean the floor at the end of the day, you got to be fast. You can't be worried about where the trash is going. And one of my mother's friends says, well, she can come over to my house anytime. I can clean. I can't do what she does. I tried not to, but I'd forget.
Just get in the mode.
Yeah. Poor Mama. And my mother was a neat freak. I call her a neat freak, but thank God. Now I'm thankful that she taught her children how to clean properly. And both of my parents were very about appearance, about your physical appearance and your grooming. Thank God. That's become a thing of the past, I guess.
What's the biggest floral design you've ever done?
Oh, Lord, I don't know. I do really big things at the cathedral because the cathedral's huge, the Washington Cathedral.
Remember your swan story.
Oh yeah, but I've done some big stuff, for special events or weddings and stuff. And usually at the cathedral, she puts me on big stuff because she knows it doesn't intimidate me. Have any of you ever been up there for the Christmas at Washington Cathedral? Oh, oh, you're right on the doorstep. I know the traffic is not pleasant, but it's gorgeous. We're decorating the 20th. It's just got Advent up right now, but the 20th it'll be festooned. And of course, we have a lot of wonderful choral presentations going on. The King's Singers are here the 15th from Scotland. They're fabulous at the cathedral. And then the cathedral has I can't figure what's the big Christmas program every year, which is wonderful. And usually National Brass Ensemble or National Symphony, they accompany them. And of course that organ is fabulous. But I know the traffic's terrible, so one year we went up on the train because we figured that, and that was fine. Then just Ubered over to the cathedral. Well, usually the traditional purple, green, pink. But we have a lot of stuff going on, so it depends on what's going on. And what she tries to do is keep it so that we can adjust it fast. Sometimes we're on standby, as we call it, if someone of prominence is very ill, and we know that the national service will be there. And you all probably know who I'm talking about. We've been on standby for months on that one. And I know. Wonderful people. We will usually, the 20th, everything will be done again. Some things are done, but everything will be done for Christmas. And then it'll stay. Usually, if we had to have a funeral or something, the high altar would be changed, probably, if the family wanted it.
So how long are you there? You there for like a week?
No. Couple days sometimes. Depends what we got going on. But it's wonderful. The director, I love her to death. She's the nicest person. And it's a drive, I know. Like Randy Holleran, who's the dean of the cathedral, one day he was out there with us, and somebody said, Jan drives from Fredericksburg. He went, what? I said, yes. He said, oh, thank you so much. He said, I used to come from Richmond when I was in Richmond and had to come up here for meetings. And he said, but it's even worse ever than it was even then. I said, yeah, but I love coming because it's a wonderful, beautiful place to work. And it's so, I don't know, the feeling of it is wonderful. Yes, you feel the spirit when you're in it. And it's an Episcopal church, but it is the national cathedral. So, all faiths are welcome. They don't care. And, there's tours usually every day. So sometimes they shut down tours if we've got a lot. Well, they won't have them in there on that day because there's too much going on. If they tour, they just guide them around the perimeter where we're working so that they're not in our way.
Jan, did you take supplies up?
No. I'll take greenery. Sometimes she'll call me the day before Easter. She called me late on the afternoon the day before I was going. She said, Jan, can you find me any, what she was looking for? And I said, yeah, I know where there's a big bush. A friend of mine has it. They don't care. Yeah. And I said, don't worry, I'll get it. So I ran and got that for her. I'll hold it up. Now that's elegance. Elegant Christmas. Okay, I'm going to make something real fast here. Okay. One thing I love are swags. They're so easy.
All right, who's the lucky winner? Get your. All right,
I'm going
ready?
to let Lindsay read it so y'all know I didn't cheat.
8347731. Oh, good.
Oh, good. Yay. Uh, this is the way I start to make a swag. It's the easiest, fastest thing you can make, and they're so pretty and so simple. See what I'm going with here? I might break that off and move it up higher. You can cut them and hang them any just direction you want. You can make them bigger, you can make them smaller, it doesn't matter. I made one a few weeks ago. It's hanging on my little door at the guest house. Yeah, but nobody can see that from the road. So they think well, several people thought, oh no, has she moved? What has happened? And I said, no. I said, don't worry, Jason's not getting rid of me. I came with the house. That's what he tells people. And he was telling somebody that one day, and the husband and wife, and the wife goes, if we had known that, you would have bought it. It was so funny. But Heather and I get along great. He always says, I think you two must have been cut from the same mold. We'll be working on a project. So we have fun.
Done a great job restoring.
Oh, thank you. Yes, they did. Yeah, I'm just picking it up as I go, now I want some of this pine. And when you use this, just do this if it's got like brown pieces in it, just shake them out. Like what's Taylor Swift's song, Shake Something? Yeah. Since she's the girl of the hour of the moment here, the hour. Well, people don't realize she's smart. She's very smart. Her daddy was a financial person. And you notice daddy's with her. He's taking care of all that. So she'll always be all right. She was a nerd in high school. That's what she says. The kid, she didn't have a lot of friends. They all thought she was weird. Good for them. Because she was, doing music. Like, I didn't go see it, but she was at Fairview Beach within 2 months of when she hit it big. One summer, singing down there. And when I heard that, I went, oh my gosh. She was at Fairview Beach. Yep, that's how fast it happened. But it was inevitable because she just had so much talent. Now I'm looking for that. I have it right here somewhere. It's like no, it's a green looking stuff. I'll use this. But I have another type too. I was going to show them. It's laying around here somewhere. It looks like a tie type stuff. If you can find it in all these piles. And then I'm just going to wrap this with this spool wire. You've seen me use that before. I like wax thread, but that's hard to find now. No, it's like a twist tie stuff. That's very hard to find. It's just easier on your hands, but this works too. And what I do, I start it off, and I'm going to bring it around here. Let me lay it down and just tie it. Just tie that wire. Now my hands are a mess. I've got paint all over them. No, it's like a papery stuff, kind of papery. It's in here somewhere. Just got so much mess, I don't know where I put it. And I'm just going to keep tying it around. Pardon? Did it fall over? Okay. No. That's the wreath wrap. It's in here somewhere. I don't need it right now. I'm using this. We'll find it in all this rubbish. Okay. And then I'm going to add some magnolia. Magnolia's a little heavier, so you got to get yourself a little base going. That's what I do. Then I have some great clippers. Sometimes I do it with my hand. I really shouldn't, so I'm not recommending y'all to abuse your hands like I do. I mean, you can see them. Got Band-Aids on them, and they're so dry, I'll lay in the bed going, oh, got to get some lotion on my hands. As Wilhelmina's walking all over me. my cat. Oh, she's a mess. She's boiled rotten. And yeah, she moved over to the guest house, never missed a beat. And there's a hot tub out back with a cover on it. She's always on it. She loves it. On top of that cover. We laugh. Then she got into the planters, laying on top of the planters, these big planters, like she was a plant. I thought, what are you doing? Yeah, exactly. You're right, Wilhelmina. After the Queen of the Netherlands. She's the Queen of William Street, and she knows it. But she's very street smart. She doesn't go out near the traffic, and if there's a lot of trucks around the driveway, she's very careful. She's a smart little girl. And that's one reason I didn't want to move her, because I knew she knew her territory. And once they're an indoor-outdoor, it's cruel, I think, to make them an indoor, because they've got a taste of it, and they love it. And, I just can't do that.
Magnolia?
Yeah, give me that small piece. That might work. And then I'll put some box in it. Okay. Give me a couple pieces of that are kind of big, and then I'll get some holly, some of those holly branches, and spray those. Now my hands are strong. I've done this so daggone long. That might work. Let me see. There's some down here too, Lindsay. Yeah, there's some here. And then I'll use some of that blueberry stuff too.
You want some holly?
Yes, I'd like some holly. A little bit of box in it. And I have horrible looking fingernails, but that goes with this territory. And people tell me, oh, I do all kinds of, and I see these gorgeous nails on them. I'm thinking, yeah, right. Not unless you get a manicure every day. Because there is no way. You can't do some of this stuff with gloves on. Oh, yeah, I have to feel it. Yeah. You can do a little bit of it. You can do fresh flowers with tight gloves. I've had to before because of my hands, but not this stuff. But I'd rather have messy hands. I don't care. Messy fingers, it doesn't matter to me. Yeah, exactly. When I can't do this anymore, I can sit around and look at my fingernails. But right now, I don't care. I got better things to do. Yeah. They look nice. I do think they do look nice, but I can't do it with this. I've done it a couple times for something special, but it didn't last long. I have to get it right before, and then, because it's going to be, I'll forget and just start doing stuff. This holly has wonderful berries. And these are really good clippers that I have, really good. And they'll cut anything. I don't know what brand these are, but you can get them from Cutco too. I've had Cutco ones. I forget, these are a Dutch brand, but I don't remember the name.
This event is not sponsored by Cutco.
No.
But we suggest it. We wish it was.
Yeah. I remember the first scissors I ever got. It was a customer's son who was in college and selling Cutco that summer. And he came and he wanted to show me the clippers. And I said, yeah, those are really good. And I said, what else you got there? And he said, well, we've got some shears. I said, let me see them. And that was it. Yes, it was. Well, I bought them and never looked back. They're the greatest. Then I bought a pair for all the girls, the people that work for me, because they're just wonderful. I'm going to turn that around so you can see what I'm building. It's so quick. People say, oh, I don't have time, I don't have this, I don't have that. Well, sorry, I think I'll put a plaid on it, and I'm show you what I'm. Yeah, I do too. And I've got these big, fabulous pine cones that I love.
Bring these every year. Where did you get these?
Oh gosh, I bought.
Okay.
I always call them Texas, but I think they are from the Sierras. They're off Hugh. Well, obviously, it's a big tree. You wouldn't have that. I also brought some big bells. Yeah, I might use those. Okay, and I'm going to mix this ribbon. Sometimes I put two different kinds of ribbons. It gets thicker, so you have to. You know what I do? I pleat it, I gather it, even though it's wired, and this is the same on each side, I still pleat it between my thumb and index finger, so I have mobility with it. I can move the loops around better. And I never start off like this. Why? Yes, it would have to end up being gigantic. You want to start off smaller and work to the size you need. Because if you start off big, it's going to be really big. What if you're, got a smaller thing? So you're controlling the size of what it's going to go on. So I pinch this one in and pleat it. Then I straighten my loop. And then I'm going to put this one on, same way. And this is a wired, filament edge, so it's heavy enough that you can. And I use this ribbon outside too, and it's a satin, holds up beautiful. Then I can move it around.
Is that all from the same manufacturer of the shoes?
I think so. I don't have either that or Lion Ribbon. That's another good company. Lion,
Print out like a recommendation.
Lyon, which also owns Ofray, which is a millinery ribbon for sewing and hats and. They're right in, I think that they ship out of Maryland, I believe, on this coast. I don't know about, and G. Stevens is located in Arizona, but they have a facility shipping out of New York too. And I think you can go online and you can pull it up retail. Because I had a friend, we were looking for something very specific, and I said, well, the only place we're going to find that is D. Stevens. So I said, go online and see if you can pull that up. And she went online to the company, but they were sold out. So she went online to someone who carried it, and they had, I think, 6 rolls of what we were looking for. It was a regal purple with a gold liner. And I said, she painted her brick home white, and I love it. And I said, okay. She said, I'm tired of the same thing. I said, let's get this regal purple with the gold backing and get it in the real wide width. Because she has, 18 wreaths on the front because she has so many windows. And it looked beautiful. Then I took this rosette ribbon in purple and mixed it with the other ribbon for the front door wreath. It was so pretty. Yeah, it was gorgeous. Regal purple, which purple is the true color of Christmas. Purple and gold, the color of kings. And one year when I lived at Marie Heights Apartments, I did my front door and my balcony, and I did it in fresh greens and everything in purple. I had a regal purple ribbon and gold. And the man who owned that complex, but don't own anymore, but lived in Warrington. So when he came, our resident manager said, oh, I got to take you and show you this. She said, everybody's going to see her door. Of course, I was working too, so I had to stay up all night to do it. Those are the young days when I stay up half the night and work all day. Okay, now I'm going to cut this so I can. Okay. Now I get up early and I go to bed early because I'm so tired by the time. And I did have my knee replacement. That was the 19th of September. It was no big whoop. Much easier than a rotator cuff, let me tell you. I was hoping, and my doctor said, well, everybody that's had a rotator cuff says it's worse. And I said, well, I'll let you know. But it was easy. I was shocked how it was not as painful. It was, and I took no narcotics because I told him I didn't want them. I was on a walker 4 days and a cane 3 days. And I was so stable, I never felt unstable. They let me drive in 16 days. I couldn't believe it. And the nurse said, you can drive. I said, what? And I remember the first day I went out to drive on the 18th day. I didn't do that day. And Jason was outside. He says, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to just try to drive around the block. I said, the nurse said I could. He said, she did? I said, yeah. And I said, if I get around the block without any trouble, I'm going to run up to Giant and come right back. He said, okay, call me if you need me. I said, I will. I did fine. I mean, it was a little tight. I had to maneuver my leg into the car, but it did fine. And then that was before I went to outpatient. Then I started outpatient on Monday, and they said, you're fine to drive. I had someone already lined up to take me, so they took me. And I asked them, and they said, no, they're right. You're fine to drive. But I'm telling everybody, because I don't want people to be afraid. Fear is worse than sometimes the actual thing. You get all that fear built up in you, because everybody tells you our war stories. That's what I call it. And everybody's different. Every human is different. That's why the same doctor can have different outcomes with different patients, because we are all different. See how I did that? I elongated the bow a little bit so it isn't just a fat, round bow. I don't like fat, like poofy bows. I like them to have a little flow to them. And now I'm going to slide the pipe cleaner under. You all remember what I say about that. Keep holding it very tightly. And I'm going to double it because I'm going to make a hook out of the end of it. And I double it, I fold it over each side because I need more length, and make sure you tie it on, fold it real tight, and just slide it under while you're holding it. Don't ever let it go. And then pull it to the back really tightly and twist it. Okay? Then I'm going to tie it on, and then I'll trim it what I need to trim. And I'll hold it up so you all can see. Okay. I've got that. I'm going to have to tie it. Let me cut that wire off. It's getting in my way. I'm trying to watch out for this glue gun over here because I don't want to get burned, and I don't want it to have a fire going on. I'll be thrown out. That's the one thing. Don't ever leave them unattended, because we used them all the time in the store. And one day, one of my fellow workers and I were at our tables working. The glue gun was hooked up. Someone had been working on the other table behind us. All of a sudden, we heard a noise. We turned around. That thing burst, and fire was flying. Oh, yeah. So don't leave them unattended. Unplug them when you have to go away from them. Just plug them back. Because, that's we're like, oh, my gosh, we had been standing here. And you can do these pan glues, but they're more dangerous, because I've had friends who are florists who've had fires from those. So I prefer the glue gun. But anytime you have something like that, it's it's a fire. It can be a fire hazard if you're not careful. Just pays to always remember to undo it, because it'll heat right back up fast. Like I said, we were right there, so thank gosh. I'm going to turn it around so you can see the bow, and then I'll But this is so easy. And then I'm going to tie off the back for the hanger. Now I made a big one. You can make little ones. It doesn't matter what you're making it for. You can make them for a fence post or a little gate. Make them smaller. Then I'm going to tie this off and roll it. Mailbox, you're exactly right. And I brought some ivy with me today too. The one I made before I put ivy streamers in. That was pretty. Now I laid it on its face, so you have to fluff it back up. And that's the wonderful thing about wired ribbon. Some of us are old enough to remember when you didn't have that. Oh, yeah, not pleasant. It didn't hold up like this. It didn't stay looking like this. This stuff is just wonderful. Now you could do one or two things. We could tuck the pine cones in it, and they're nice and big. And see what I did? I put a pipe cleaner up under what I call their petals, and then you can tie them into it. Or, where are the bells? I do like bells. I really like them if there's somewhere you can hear them. I think they're fun. But you got to make sure these are heavy bells. You want to get them on there tight. So I'm doing the same thing, doubling the pipe cleaner. And these are what I call chenilles. They're not the same as a pipe cleaner. They're much heavier and denser. But I think that the craft stores may sell this variety because they are heavier and denser, and they're easy to work with your hands. The wire is harder on your hands, and this makes it grip. So that's why I like to use them, because you need a little help with your hands here. This time of year, after you've been picking stuff and everything, they get a little sore. And this is a much gentler thing on your hands, and you can pull it tighter and it won't slide like a wire will. And the back of it, if you have chenilles, don't scratch your door or your wall. And that's another thing you have to think about, your paint or your wallpaper, so you don't get in trouble. Yeah. Or if you don't have an understanding husband, just get rid of him and get and get somebody else that appreciates the beauty of it. My father, he loved it all. He didn't care. I always laugh. I see these poor souls. I'm not married, of course, but in the grocery store. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? Questioning what the wife is buying. Huh? Yeah, that would have lasted 5 seconds with my mother. You know, my mother my father wouldn't have done it anyway. He always said, my mother didn't work out of the home, which is different. And he said, she's in charge of the house. If she needs it, she gets it. I stay out of that. Other than major purchases, he didn't care. He said, she runs the house, she does all that. If she says she needs this, and she gets it. I don't care. I'm not getting into that. And that worked fine. But my grandfather the same way, and my father's cousin the same way. We always, and Grandpapa, it was the Williams trait. They were very sweet. Okay, I'll get this in here. You just want to make sure you tie it tight because the bells are a little heavy. I'm pulling it tight. And if you had some, body around, they can hold on to it for you. But yeah, or on the door. Just the sound of bells at Christmas, I love. Okay, I'm getting it off here. Yeah, they sound happy, We need all that we can get. You get to a certain point, I think, in age where you say, if you haven't got something happy and positive, don't tell me. I don't want to hear it. Got to preserve our mental health. Yeah.
I don't know, I'm 27, I'm that way.
Yeah. Well, it's a good way to be, Lindsay, because you know what? You can't. Some things you can change slowly, but you can't. We can't save the world in 1 second. We'll try, but and whoever wins it, there's a hanger on the back. You can see the loop that I made. See that loop? That's what you're going to hang it on. Hang it with. It's heavy.
I'll get the ticket.
Okay. Now I'm going to make a little boxwood tree with a little different twist. Now, the way I do them is systematically, and I've been teaching at church what to do. There you go.
It is 8347677.
Oh, right after me.
Oh no, I thought it was you. Ah.
Okay.
Oh.
You guys have really
Oh.
Your mom has really good luck from afar.
I mean, she needs it.
Yeah.
Eh.
8347683. There you go. Okay, awesome.
Uh-huh. What I do is establish the height, and then I do the width. And I notice this, I always angle down. I'm not angling straight out. You'll use less boxwood this way, and it's a lot faster. You notice I trim the boxwood. And people say, well, what if you have a Williamsburg comb? Well, for this type of thing, I say throw it away because it's no water source. And people's homes today are too warm. Back then, they were probably 40 degrees. Yeah, they lasted. It was cold without a water source. Plus, they didn't decorate until right before Christmas. Not like now, people decorate a month or 6 weeks ahead of time. So you can't expect something to live that long that's fresh. Or in a house that's 65, 70 degrees. It's not going to happen.
Do you need more boxwood?
Yeah, I'm looking right over here in this pile, some good stuff, Lindsay. You angle it down and go around, so you're going to have a tree shape when I get finished.
And you did this one year for a mug, didn't you?
Yes.
You say?
Yeah, I did some little mugs. Okay. You'll see as I get going. The oasis is wet. You can add water to it when you get home. I didn't fill it up with, it's already soaked, pre-soaked. And I didn't put water in it because I don't want it sloshing. And I recommend to people to take them in the kitchen, or if you have a utility sink, and put them there to water them. Don't water them sitting on your furniture, because if the water spills out, you're going to be mad at yourself. And it's just much easier to do that. And if you want them to last longer, you can always sit them in your garage or someplace where it's cool at night. Before you go to bed, just put them out there. My father was good at doing that. If I instructed him, he'd be religious about it. And be careful what you put over a fireplace or on a fireplace mantle, because there's a lot of heat that comes up from that, even if it's gas. So be mindful of that heat, because heat and these things don't go together. It dries them out really fast, and you'll think you did something wrong, but you didn't. It's just the heat. You can see the tree shape coming. And it's a much faster way to do it if you angle it and you use less boxwood. Plus, it gives you the shape. If you get in like this, you don't have that shape. Thank you, Lindsay. Lindsay's my assistant today. I'm working on this gridded box because the tables are too low for me, and it gives me a backache. So I was laying in bed thinking, I got to get one of those boxes. Where are they? Because everything I own is all over the place. Every time Jason and Heather have a big 3-car garage, I told them, I said, every time we open the doors, I think the gypsies have landed, because it's all my stuff is crammed in there, and all their stuff, stuff just happens to. Jason said, well, these garages will never get filled up. Yeah, right. Didn't take long, even for them, to fill up with stuff. If you don't know what to do with it, throw it in the garage, But luckily we had that so we could put all the stuff in there. On Ferry Road? Pardon? Uh-huh. It had an environmental issue. Serious one. Yeah. I was supposed to be buying it, and the bank found it like 3 days before closing. Yeah. It was not disclosed, honestly. And I had already put all new doors, windows, all new plumbing, all new bathroom, a lot in it. And anyway, it got to the point I was scared. I'll be honest with you, because they wouldn't give me an honest answer of what it was, but I found out. And I had several chemical engineers tell me, you never get it out of there. And I don't know if some of you probably remember in town the old Sunshine Laundry, which was up by Marie Heights Apartments on William Street. It's the college parking lot now. Well, Sunshine was a laundry there for many, many years. They did the hospital's laundry and the college and a lot of big stuff. And this chemical was outlawed, I think, in the early 80s. And of course, they had used it for dry cleaning. The nickname of it's Perk is the nickname. It's got a great big regular name. And I always wondered why that prime real estate went for a parking lot. That's because it was deemed only fit for a parking lot. When they find it in the ground, it just won't dissipate. And usually nothing can be built on the property. It can have a parking lot covered in asphalt. So that's what you got there. So when they drilled holes in my floor and my ceiling to vent it, I really started getting nervous. And I thought, this is not worth it. I don't want to get sick. I don't want anybody working for me getting sick. I don't want to take a chance with other people. I was responsible for. And so I said, I'm out of here. And consequently, they haven't been able to sell it either, because it was finally evaluated and that's what it said. No one could ever live on it, and it can never be a residence or anything. Pardon? No, it was too long ago. I know it caused the anemia. I had a lot of dental work in April, and then I couldn't chew, and I had some bad choking spells that scared the devil out of me, and so I wasn't eating very well, and I couldn't chew anything like meat. I'm not a meat eater anyway, but much. I don't eat much meat, but just a little bit, I think, and I've got it. I'm going to do a little twist on this. I'm not going to do red and green. And I'll show you. This is going to be a little, it won't sit on this very well, a little Scottish theme, Highlands. Yes, I love of Scotland. Now I'm going to shine this up a little bit. You see the tree shape? That didn't take long, does not take 40 days and 40 nights. This is what some people think. Oh, I can't do that. It'll take too long. Well, unfortunately, anything you do worthwhile takes a little time. That's the way I answer people. Anything. If you think about it. And I've made these for people, and I'm not kidding you. They keep them for months. They water them, then they let them dry, and then they don't want anybody to throw them away. I had one person who even sprayed it gold. Yeah. I said, okay, whatever you want to do. Okay. Now I'll find my ribbon. Here it is, a little black watch plaid. And this is Dee Stevens, of course. Those sisters are just something else. Great taste. The first year I saw them in Atlanta, they were in a temporary area, what we call temporary exhibitors, they call them. They didn't have a showroom. And I'm walking around and I see this kind of plaids, silk plaids in different widths. I went, wait a minute. I've been looking for these forever. And I walk in there and, I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. And the next year they had a permanent showroom. That's how fast it took off. Yep. And the fabric is just beautiful. And they make table covers out of them. I bought a bunch of their table covers too. I had a lime green one in that rosette ribbon. Oh, I loved it. And you must put ribbon on a pick, correct? Because if you don't, the chenille stem, if you stick it into Oasis, will suck up the water. And you'll be sorry because it'll be wet. The ribbon will get completely wet because it'll soak into it. Now I'm trying to figure. I'm going to turn it around, let you see that. And I'm going to make a couple more of them. And some people, say if you had a blue and white kitchen and you wanted some, you could always add some holly berries to it for a touch of red, but I'm going to put, do you see that? It's in a brown paper. There they are, right there. Mm-hmm. Put those right up there, yeah. Is that the good? Yeah, that's the ones I want. Smaller ones.
You want the smaller ones?
Yeah, that's them. Okay. They are the smaller ones. Yeah, it's hard. There's certain things that, I don't know why. Years ago, I used to get them from a food purveyor or fruit purveyor locally. Now there aren't any, I don't think, locally. The little real, what we call lady apples or May apples. They're small, but there's nobody around here anymore that sells fruit that I can get them from. And then I had a restaurant get them for me, and then they couldn't get them either. But you see them other places, like New York, you could get them. And crab apples are wonderful. They have so many types of crabapple trees in England, all wonderful kinds. And they gather them and use them. They just put this on it and tie it on. Uh-oh. See this daggone thing? But I can keep it. I just had to remember I got it on there. But I knew if you're a certain height, these tables are a little too short for you. And the small on my back is so much better now that I'm not standing at a work table 12 and 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. You're not kidding. I used to think, oh my gosh, but that's what it was. I was almost 69 when I retired, so I had one lady say to me, and we were amongst some other people that were friends, said, oh, you should have waited till you were 70. And one of the other people who knew me real well, no, she shouldn't. That made her mad. That's what she said. She said, don't you say that to her. She said, she put all, she should not wait till she's. Well, my opinion was, well, it was multiple reasons. Well, like I said, that problem with that was a big catalyst. But, my niece, not having children, my nieces and nephews were all begging me. Because they said, we don't want you to drop dead in your tracks, never do the things you wanted to do, or be able to go places you wanted to go. What's the point? So I figured 50 years was enough. If anybody else didn't like it, it was too bad. I had to do what I had to do. And it was hard. It was a very hard decision. But, yeah, I stay busy. It's like one of my dear friends who's also a good customer. He said, I told him, personally, I told some of them first. He goes, well, that's okay, but you're not retiring from me. And I said, absolutely not. That was so cute. He said, that's fine, but you're not retiring from me.
I retired at 80.
Wow. Wow. What did you do?
I was project coordinator for the hospital.
Oh, wow. Well, my problem was I worked 7 days and nights, all horrible hours. 12 hours was a short day.
I went part-time.
That was smart, yeah. But it's wonderful if you can do it and it's not such a stress on your body. But
They let me pick my hours.
yeah, they were smart because you know what's going on. Yeah, that's priceless in itself. And I brought some green apples, and then I went out this morning and picked a few things at home. And Heather had some heather blooming. It's a different type, but it's a heather that'll bloom here. And I picked these. These are ligustrum berries. Aren't they wonderful? They use them in England decorating all the time. What's wrong? I know. They use all kinds of berries. And the ivy berries. And I also brought a little bit of Akuba, which I love Akuba. Okay, we're doing good. I'm trying to hurry to do the things I want to do. Lindsay's keep me on track here. And, the Lord blessed me because I do have a lot of stamina. Thank God. Well, I think when you work like that and you have to, you just keep on. So eventually, you don't know the difference. I brought some rosemary also. I love it. At Christmas, the smell is so wonderful. They use a lot of that over there too. They do mostly fresh. They don't do a lot of artificial. In England. And even the churches, everybody does fresh. I love it. And nobody's moaning, oh, it's too much work, Okay, I'm getting in the cords. I'll put that little bit of rosemary at the top. And look at these. Oh, how they pick up that color. It's going to be beautiful. Then I brought some little green apples. I looked for little ones. I got the littlest ones I could find. I also had that blueberry that's wonderful. They're just a native Virginia cedar. I call them. Oh, they're from the ligustrum shrub. It's a common green shrub that you see, but they get the berries this time of year. See that leaf? I love them. Yeah, I have one that was there that luckily didn't get sacrificed. Of course, my yard is a mess. I had this little rock wall, and of course the plumber had to go through under the wall. So you all know what happened there. And then they, bless their hearts, they were trying to put it back, but they didn't know how to do it. And they didn't realize that you have to stack those rocks or slate a certain way so that they fit better and look better. So I went over there, oh my God, it was helter-skelter, but we're going to fix it. But they tried, and I have it all done in bed, so it was really difficult for them. But they did a good job.
Now, how do you keep animals from stealing this fruit?
The fruit, well, that can be a problem if it's outside. Yeah, the squirrels. Now, I feed my squirrels regularly, and they know, they play with Wilhelmina. This is serious. She does not hurt them. Doesn't even try. When her water bowl's out there in the summer, I have it on the little patio thing. She'll sit right by them. She'll be this far away, and they come up and drink water. She never bothers them because they're her buddies, and she plays with them. But I give them old apples, and I buy them corn on the cob, dried corn. They love that. And I did that when I lived next door. They lived up in the cedar trees, not the hemlock trees. They never bothered a thing. Now, they did bother pumpkins. And I've given the ones over at the house some of the old pumpkins. They're shredding those up. They love pumpkin, which is good for them. And it's a good thing to do with them at the end, let an animal have them, because they're really healthy for them. Okay, these were the smallest I could dig up. And I think, where did I get these? I think I got these at Lidl. I looked everywhere. Yeah. Their produce prices are wonderful. And some people say, well, it's too far to go. Well, true if you don't live out there. And then I'm going to put some of these berries in it. Ligustrum berries. Ligustrum's a really common shrub in Virginia. You can feel the oasis through the boxwood. I just think it's fun to do something a little different, colors than just red and green. You can see how it picks up the... I was laying in bed saying, you got to go cut those berries. You got to go get through this. Reminding myself. You were? Yeah, Wilhelmina was up.
My cats were up too.
Yeah.
We were up before them, so they were meowing at us.
Yeah. Oh, she was, about 3 a.m. she wanted to get up. You're not getting up. Because she'll be out 5 minutes and then she'll be wanting to come in. And I just don't like her to go out that early. Uh-oh. It's okay, I got it. It's not coming out of there. If I keep it on the grid, I'm okay, but gotta keep it on the grid. Okay. It's just if I come off that little, see that little, it's not solid, it has those little grids on it, darn it. If it was solid, it wouldn't matter. And the same thing with this, if you're going to water it, take it to a sink and put it in the sink so you don't have a mess. And just put the water spigot over it for just a little bit, and it'll soak it up enough. It'll be fine. When it's greenery like this, you don't have any cut flowers in it, and berries. You don't have to keep it as wet as you do when it's flowers. Yeah. And the apples will last pretty long, depending on how hot your house is. You know, if it's not too hot, they'll last longer. My little house, before we just did all this work, the windows and the insulation, it was not hot at all. I kept the thermostat on 58 because it didn't matter what I've set it on. It wasn't getting hotter than 58. I tried, so I got used to it. It just didn't have any insulation at all. And then those old windows, it was... Yeah. Then I'm going to add a little bit of the heather, touch of the heather. And it's just starting to bloom, so try to get pieces with a little bit of bloom on it so you can see what it is. It's a little different than the Scotch heather, but it's what will live here. Because they don't like, even in the summer, they don't like a lot of the heat that well, so this variety will take it. It doesn't bloom in the summer, it blooms in the winter, but a lot of the others just die because the heat's too much for them. Just like, those little evergreens that they try to sell everywhere. I'll come up with the name in a minute. And people will tell me, I got that, but it died. Yeah, they don't like heat. Not the heat we have. And they get spider mites terribly. I don't know about ligustrum. I don't think so, but you could look it up online. I don't worry about it because my cat won't eat anything. Most
animals by nature won't eat.
Yeah, they usually know what is what, just like birds know what to eat and what not to eat. But some cats will eat anything. And Wilhelmina, she won't eat people food. She won't chicken. She won't fish. I've tried everything. She doesn't want it. If they ever stop making that food she likes, I'm in trouble. Because she won't eat anything else. That and her treats.
How many bags of food did you go to before you found it?
Oh, well, she was another one she liked, and they stopped making it. So then I went through a bunch of different ones. I had to give them away because she wouldn't eat them. She'd eat treats. She ate a lot of treats, but she wouldn't eat that. What are those things called she likes? Tender something. What are they called? I don't know. She likes the chicken, only the chicken flavor. She's not eating any of the others. She has a good friend, I call her benefactor, that's always sending her treats. And I was worried she's eating too many treats, so I asked her doctor, and she said, no, that won't hurt her. Because she is the only animal I've ever had that has stayed the same weight her whole life. All by accident, because usually, they gain weight, but she never has. I think she's gained a little now because she had gotten too thin. She was under 8 pounds. So she's probably about 9 now, which is fine. But she's getting older, so she's not as active.
Did you adopt her?
Yes, I found her. She found us. I didn't find her. She was always smart. She probably said, these look like some big suckers here. I think I'll see what happens. And she was very young, and I was feeding her like 2 or 3 times a day. She'd show up at the workroom door. This is when we were still in William Street. And my dog had just died a few months before, the famous Myrtle May. And I would feed her, and she'd disappear, and then she'd come back and we'd feed her. So one day I said to my niece, she'd been coming for a few weeks, I said, I wonder if it's a male or female. She said, oh, Auntie, I think it's a female. I think she's going to have kittens. I said, what? So I called over to Larry Witter, my vet, and I took her right over, and Larry did an ultrasound, and he said, she's just had these kittens. She's about 9 months old, and she's lactating. I went, oh, no. I said, well, what do we do? And he said, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, I want to give her any shot that's safe with the babies, and then I'm going to find the kittens. And he was like, oh, Lord, because he'd been through that before. Yeah, he'd been through me finding kittens before. So that's what we did. We found those kittens. There were 4 little kittens. Got them all good homes. And then I got her fixed so she couldn't have any more babies. But she was a good little mama. And they were under a shed on an alley between Hanover Street and George Street. We kept trailing her. We had to follow her when she was going around there. And finally we found them. It took us a month to find them. And so by that time they were walking and eating and everything. And the neighbors told the people that lived in the little house that I was trying to help them. They didn't know where she came from, they said. She had them under their shed. So I asked them, did they mind? They said, oh no. I said, well, I'm trying to help them and get them all homes. So that's what we did. And everybody loved them. They were smart kittens like Wilhelmina. There we go.
Oh, it's so cute.
Isn't that cute? Yeah, I went in my shed and I saw that black watch ribbon yesterday. I went, I've never used that. That's going to be it. Okay.
834-7705.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, hooray. Oh, good. Okay. Uh-huh.
1147.
Okay.
You're fine.
Okay. Okay, I'll start with some box. Well, there's plenty here. Yeah, I'll use some. I'm going to use that on the next one. I'm going to do this real quick, and then I'll do that other one fast. Yeah. Okay. I will use Nandine on that. I'm just going to green this up. What I did, I have this metal tray, and I've got 3 little 4-inch poinsettias in the middle. And I want to keep it low because if you put it on a table, you want to be able to see over it. And then I've got some wedges of Oasis, and I lined it with some pot foil, which the kind of foil I used, of course, was more expensive than what you get of the others. It's got a nice plastic lining, and it's got a little weight to it, so it won't tear easily. So you can line it, use it as a liner as well. And I still use the same kind because it's the nicer one. And I guess I'm blessed that my parents believed in quality, and that's the way they taught me. I remember when I was 15, I think, I wanted a Harris tweed coat. And my mother said, what? My father said, she knows what's good. So Daddy and I headed off to Richmond, and we found a Harris tweed coat that I wanted. And Harris tweed coat, you'll never not have if you want to keep it, because they last forever. That is the truth. And but I wanted a pair of gold suede pumps to go with it. And my daddy was so cute. And I have a long, narrow foot even then. And Daddy said, well, let's just cut to the chase. He said, I know the only place we're going to find those is Montaldo's, so we can save our time. Plus, I wanted green, grosgrain Weegians. And he said, we're not going to get those anywhere either, but there. So sure enough, they had exactly what I wanted. Cut down on time. And I always had a lot of babysitting money. I saved my money. And I said, Daddy, I'll buy them. He said, no, Daddy's going to buy them. Yes, I did. He died at 56. Yeah, he was a great girl daddy. 'Cause he loved to buy us pretty clothes. Nothing was, if he liked it, especially blue. He loved blue. That was his favorite color. So if he found something blue, he's going to buy it. And we were in Richmond one time. My oldest sister's 4 years older than I am, and we were looking for a dress for her for, I think, a prom. And we're walking down the street, and I forget which store it was, and it had this gorgeous formal in it. And it was white background. It had embroidered pale aqua flowers and little green leaves all over it, and a wide aqua silk sash that flowed down the back, and just had a little scoop neck and off the shoulder a little bit. Very demure. My parents did not. We weren't allowed to wear anything black. That's too old looking for a young girl, or slinky. We were not cocktail waitresses, and forget that. That wasn't going to happen. And so it was gorgeous. So all of us stopped in our tracks. My younger sister, my twin sisters that are 14 months younger than I am, we all went, oh, that dress. And Daddy goes, oh, that dress. And my mother goes, hold it. And my father says, come on, we're going in. Mother says, well, wait a minute. We don't even know. He said, that's it. That's the dress. And Mother said, wait a minute, James Hamilton. We don't even know how much it costs. Daddy said, I don't know, but this is it. Of course, my sister was grinning like a Cheshire cat because she knew she was going to get it. Yeah, she got it. It was beautiful. Poor Mama. She's like, oh, Lord, here we go. hmm No, it's tight. I've got pine cones put around it to tighten it up because I didn't have anything else with me, and that'll work fine because it won't matter with those. You can just throw them away. There's a lot of things you can use. They don't really absorb much water, and it just wouldn't matter. So I said, oh, I'll stick these pine cones around it, and that'll hold it tight. And if you see them, it doesn't matter. They look good. I used to have a truck that came from Florida every 2 weeks and brought me greenery, different kinds, but they also brought me mosses, cases of fresh Spanish, cases of fresh sheet moss, and fresh reindeer moss. It was wonderful. That I miss. You can't find that either. I'm thinking, come on, people. How you buy this stuff in the craft stores and you open it, do not open it in an enclosed place or close to your face because it goes, poof. All the dried stuff goes into the air, and if you have allergies, it'll tear you up. And, I only worked with fresh, so. But I've noticed, and probably you all have too, very few of these florists, quote, around here even use ribbon because it's expensive. They don't want to use it. The glass vases that we would tie beautiful ribbon around, they've got nothing around it because they don't want to put the money in ribbon. So I figured out why. That was an easy guess because it is, well, nice ribbon, I should say. Like somebody told me they can't find nice ribbon. I said, nope, not in this desert. You won't. Yes, yeah. They look, she said, even fake flowers are hard to find. I said, you're right. They look that way. Good silk flowers, should be able to practically have to touch. I only bought them in the shade and colors they grew in. I would not buy a blue magnolia. Hey, that's screaming artificial. And people say, how come your things look so real? I said, first of all, I only buy the color they grow in, and I only buy botanically correct, which means the foliage has to be correct as well as the flower, and good quality. And I don't know where they get this. Well, the big corporate stores buy at what they call a wholesale market. They don't even sell that lesser quality at the gift mart. They only sell, nicer stuff. Thank goodness. But they sell it for a nicer price. Because sometimes I'm like, you got to be kidding. Because I look at the quality of it and I'm like, this is no quality. So just green it up with this. And then I'm going to put these in it. Now what you have to be sure of, you can use, I didn't have any little battery ones, but I would probably use the battery ones because you have to make sure nothing's hanging over where the flame is with these. But you could use the little, battery operated ones. I had a whole bag, and wherever they were, I couldn't resurrect them out of, and the shed. Y'all probably know what that's like. You find it every other day except the day you're looking for it. Every other day it's in the way. Then when you go to get it, it's disappeared. Yeah, somebody moves it. Trying to make sure I'm getting them even. You just want. Oh, thank you. I had tons of them. Huh. I mean, we'd have occasions where we'd need 200 or, lots of them for weddings or parties or something. So I ended up with a whole lot of that stuff, which I gave most everything away. Salvation Army got a lot of stuff. And one time we had a little sale and it was 50% off, I guess. And the lady said, well, when will it be 75? I said, never, because it's going to the Salvation Army because they need it. If it doesn't sell at 50, they're getting it. That was my father's favorite charity, and it's my favorite charity because it is the salvation of mankind's soul. That's the business they're in, and the people who are their permanent, they live very meagerly, and that is the truth. The person who owns Goodwill drives a Rolls Royce. Yes, so you've been helping making him very wealthy. But Salvation Army is not like that. Money is all used to help the needy. And I sat by the lady who was the they call it commanding general of Salvation Army, one time coming back from St. Louis from a big meeting that they had out there, and we got to talking, and she said that sometimes if she's on a long flight and they have a available better seat, they'll come and get her because they only buy, the economy, because they're not going to waste the money that people give. But they know that, the airlines, and they'll bump them up to first class like if she's going overseas or something. And she's lovely. And we got to talking, and I said, I bet you have some interesting conversations. She said, oh, yes, because she wears her uniform. And she said one day she was sitting next to this, she could tell he was a businessman, and he looked over at her and he goes, He goes, you're in a uniform. And she said, yes, I'm what we call the commanding general of the Salvation Army. And he went, oh. And he says, well, what does that mean? And she said, well, we're an army, but we're in the business of saving mankind. And she said he kind of paused for a second, and he went, well, But my father was World War II, and I challenge you, well, there's not many left to ask, but my father loved them. And I can remember from the time I was a little girl, him giving to the Salvation Army, and this is what he always said. He said, the Salvation Army gave them everything. Wanted no money for anything. Not calls home, not anything. Telegrams, nothing would they accept. Red Cross charged them for everything. And when I lived in Boston, I walked by the Red Cross office up there, and sitting outside with Red Cross logos on them were Cadillacs and all this stuff. And when I told my father, he said, And that's why I give generously Salvation Army, because of what they did for us, when we needed it. And so I never forgot that. So when you see those kittles, if you only got 50 cents, please drop it in, because they do tireless work for people that need it. So now, yes, it's over at Park and Shop now. They moved to a bigger location. It was on Lafayette Boulevard.
For the Children's Museum.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh, the drop off? Well, theirs is behind the building, so you ought to call, see if you can find a Richmond number for them, and ask them where their receiving location is. Maybe they have a different receiving place. But yeah, they are wonderful. Yes, they're dried. I picked them probably, I don't know when I picked them, end of September, 1st of October, and put them in buckets and had them in the garage with all the other stuff, keep them from getting rain on them. And then I brought them out, and I spray them and tear them apart and mix them in stuff. They're wonderful for color. And, they're just going to dry and turn brown on the bush. I have a friend who has a lot of big limelights, and she always tells me to come get them. Yeah. Oh, I've sprayed them gold. I've sprayed them, you name it. I have this wash color I can put over the gold with a little red in it. I just spray them all kinds of colors. Silver, copper, white, whatever I need. They're great, because they're easy. And they're lightweight. See, I can tear them up and tuck them in, and they stay right where you tuck them. That's nice, too. Then I'm going to use a little bit of this variegated ivy that I cut this morning. And see how it holds up? Once it's been through cold nights and had good rain like we finally had, it holds up. I've used it in garlands and everything else. It just dries like it looks. Does not wilt. I don't know where my knife went. Here it is. It's yellow, so I can try to find it. Ivy berries? I love them. Oh. Yeah, I picked some this morning that was starting to show the black. It's the cold. The cold is what makes them get blacker. But they use that ivy with the berries in England too, a lot, all the berries. And people cut them off here because they don't want them to, get all over the place, I guess, but I love them. I don't care. Really? I do too. The English do too, believe me. They don't care. Yeah. I mean, they just really appreciate all this natural stuff. Yeah. Especially if your brick isn't in great shape anyway, And then other people are afraid it's going to tear the brick up. So. But like some of theirs are, our country's a baby compared to that, so. Yeah. Have any of you been to Chartwell, Winston Churchill's home where he died? Well, you have? Oh, my favorite, I think, even of all the big mansions. His art studio is just unbelievable. He didn't think he was good. Huh. Oh my gosh, it is incredible. There are paintings hanging from ceiling to floor that he did. He was just an incredible human being. We all know that, but he just, I just love it. And the house is just the way it was when they died, when Clementine died. And Clementine had great taste. And the fabrics and stuff in the house, very English country, but beautiful. And he has one Monet that was given to him by I think it was his publisher, who gave him this Monet back in the 20s, I believe. And that's hanging in the living room. But a lot of the other things in the house are what he painted. But he gave things away. He never sold anything. But he didn't think he was very good. And then the gardens, they're wonderful. And I guess I like him so much because he not only was brilliant, we know that, and what great orator and writer and man of the hour, but he also had a lot of humor. And when we were there, we were in the little building where you get the tickets, and this yellow tabby cat comes walking up, and the girl goes, "Oh, that's Jack." And I said, "Oh, hi, Jack." And she said, "Yes, there has always been a Jack here. Winston had a Jack." And that, I think he had a couple Jacks. They were always named Jack. And she said, "So this is a direct descendant of the same line. We always have a Jack." Yeah. He was a character, that's for sure. And then I brought this just to show you. I used this on something the other day. I was making for somebody. I found these in Target. As you go in the front doors of Target, they have this little area where they have little things that aren't very expensive. Yes. And they had this, it looked like eucalyptus, seeded eucalyptus. And I went, And I thought, this doesn't look bad. I think I could mix it with fresh stuff and it could look really good. So I bought a bunch of them. And they're just wound up. You can cut them open. It's like a little garland. That's what I did. And I don't even remember how much they were. Not much, because everything in that area is not expensive. But I keep my eyes open everywhere I go. If there's something I think I could use, I grab it up before it's gone. Because I was in there, and the next time I went in there were none left. So, but they mix in really easily. You're going to see, and you would not know. I kind of tuck them in a little, so there's greenery around them and through them, and you wouldn't know they came from Target. Not that that's bad, because Target has a higher quality than some of their other mass marketers, which may remain nameless. Well, I call them Target, and the other one I call a little less formal, Wally World. But this at least is the same leaf shape as the real, with this type of uke we call gun-eye uke, but at least it looks like the real thing. But I was really impressed. I thought, wow, I mean, there's no price on them, I'm sure, because they come in a bin. But I think they were like 3 something, no more than, I think everything in that section's under 5, isn't it? So it couldn't have been any more than that. So keep your eyes open. If you think it looks like something you can use, just buy it and put it aside and hope you can find it when it's time. That's the other key ingredient. Okay, that you don't lose it. Okay, now I would put the little Votives with the battery in there so that you could use it as a centerpiece. Okay, you want to draw that? You want to draw that one?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to do one more real quick.
All right, lucky winner.
834710. Oh, good. It's heavy.
Okay.
You want to take- It is a little heavy. Okay. Oh, I don't want to fall up here. Okay. That's got a bigger base. It won't give me trouble. Last year they cut things so short, so they got yelled at. Not by me, but by their boss. And I was thinking, oh gosh, I hope she didn't yell too much. They'll be mad. But they did a good job. But, if you don't do this kind of thing, you don't realize, that you need the length. Some taller pieces, if you can find anything taller in magnolia, longer. And so in their defense, they might not even realized exactly what I was doing. That might be better. I don't know. Yeah, I'll cut that lower one off. Now, if you have a nice size living room or entry hall or dining room, you can use something like this. Let me get my clippers. That'll work. Yeah, I will use Nandina. But the one thing you got to have is good clippers to save your hands, because you'll see me breaking, and I should not do that because it really does hurt sometimes. So take better care of yourself than I have. Look at that. Woo, I want all of it. I want the leaves as well. Yeah. Oh, let me get a couple pieces of this in it, and then I'll put that in. Here, I want it. Yeah. And just kind of clean your stems off a little so that you don't have anything below where you're going to put it into the foam, because it'll tear the foam. It'll be hard for you to get the greenery in there if you don't do that. These are so easy to do. That's why they have me doing big stuff at the cathedral, because I can do fast. One day they had me doing 2 matching. They were on what we call the road screen, and they were huge arrangements, but they had to, were L's kind of matching each other. And I was up there making these other 2 ladies were working on this one arrangement together. She said, "Oh my God, she's almost got those 2 made." And they had just gotten started. I said, "Don't worry, I'm just fast because I had to be." And so I tell people, if you're in the profession, if you don't have speed, you're going to starve. I know, that's what I said. It's unbelievable. Last year there were none, and they do go through a cycle, these cedars. And hollies, you'll notice some years they're prolific, and some years they're skimpy. Well, this is a wonderful year. Okay. Look at this. Oh my gosh. Whoa, that's okay. Oh, this. Oh. Yeah. Let me get some of these leaves.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Like,
You have to pull them apart. They're gorgeous. And there's also a little, the Fredericksburg Museum is having a little fair today down on the corner of Princess Anne and William called Kris Kringle. This is their second year for it. And they have vendors and music and all kinds of things. If I don't know, I've been outside since I came in here. I think it's a pretty decent day out, isn't it? It's supposed to be warm, much warmer now. If you feel like going down there, go to the museum and go there. You'll have a great time. Yes, yes, ma'am. They're trying hard. They have a new director, and I think everybody really likes him. So they're trying hard to get that back on track. And we can't, I was teasing with Lindsay, teasing but not teasing earlier. We're not King's Dominion, the historic attractions. And I said, I think it's sad because then I go over to England and places like that, and everybody's swarming all the historic attractions. The English, even themselves, that's what they do. They come and their children they go see all that. Come on, people. I'm worried. I mean, we were kids, we'd go to them, but Virginia history, I had 3 times in school. Now, do they even have it at all anymore? I don't know. Of course, I also learned how to write cursive, and sign my name properly.
I know how to read cursive.
Yes. I wrote something in cursive to one of my great nephews. In his defense, I think he was 9, but he couldn't read it. He could not read cursive.
They pay people now to read cursive for doctors.
And it made me, so then their parents started teaching them at home. I had a customer years ago when cell phones were just becoming prolific, and she was standing at the counter, and she said, this may sound terrible to you all, but I'm beginning to wonder. She said, I use mine when I'm in the car by myself. That's what I want it for, traveling in case you break down or something. She said, but I'm beginning to worry that it could be the spawn of the devil. Yeah, me too. Because it's now being used for reasons that aren't good. You have to worry about these kids being taken advantage of.
Oh my gosh, this smells very diverse.
This is gorgeous, I know. These berries are they weigh a ton, but they're gorgeous. Okay, and let me put some of this in it. I'm going to use this in it too because it'll look pretty with these berries. This Akuba.
What is that called?
Akuba. This is the old traditional type. There's one now that has a darker leaf and it's spotted differently. And it's really... No, you're thinking of something else probably. This is not a houseplant. This is a shrub. Yeah. I'll turn around just a minute, let you see it. And somebody's going to take this home too. I'm going to put some of these in it.
I always love your last creation. You always come up with something like,
Fast.
but it's beautiful every time.
I sprayed this before I came because I hate anesthetizing you guys. I'm used to it.
Remember during the pandemic you had to go outside the museum?
Yes.
Because we did the live.
Couldn't have spray inside that museum. Oh. I get myself in big trouble. She had to remind me because, I'm doing it, I'll forget. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, you're right. Can't do that in here. Yeah.
I'm glad we could do it that year, though.
Yes. It was a time, wasn't it? Never thought we'd see that day, but hopefully it's gone. I'd say that lightly, hoping, but knock on wood. I don't even want to brag, but I haven't had it. And I tell everybody it's due to my Manuka honey and my Sambuca vitamins. Because I went out and shopped for people who couldn't shop, and I wore a mask, of course, a good mask, and I was careful, and I, washed my hands and did everything I could, but and I live alone. See, I think that has something to do with it too. Nobody else is coming home and bringing anything.
Except the cat.
Yeah, except Wilhelmina. But and I knew where I've been, so I'll turn around just a second so you can see it. Yeah. I'm going to stick a couple cones in it that are on a pick over here. No, the ones in that basket over here. They're already on a pick. The others are so big. This morning I was picking this early out on the parking lot between Maury Building and where I live, and the back of that parking lot fence. And this gentleman came out of Maury, and he just turned around and saw who it was and laughed. Because he thought, oh, there she is. God knows what she's doing now. They all know who I am. And I'm always making something. Cutting something down, I guess. They probably think, oh, gosh. But nobody cares about this stuff. I mean, some people will even say to me, what are you going to do with it? I mean, really, like, huh? What do you want that junk for?
Someone on the phone called you the Bob Ross of gardening.
Oh, they did? Well, that's a compliment. At least I'm not Grumpy from Southern Living. The Grumpy who has this article. He's so funny. I love him.
Who?
His name Grumpy, and he does articles on, shrubbery and everything. And I have this one article that I saved that I found it during COVID, and I laughed myself silly. Oh my gosh, he has a real sense of humor. I was, in fact, reading it to my sister, dying laughing on the phone. I said, this guy is so daggone, those dry wits, and funny, just funny. But funny, and you were laughing because, yeah, you're right, And the crazy questions people ask him. Like the time someone came in the store after I'd done a program here. This was years ago. Hopefully they're not here. I mean, many, many years ago. My sister was out front. This was when I was across from La Petite in that little shop. And I had all these gold hydrangeas in a container that I'd sprayed. I was probably making something with them. And she said they kept going, how'd she do it? How'd she do it? My sister's looking around like, what in the world are they talking about? And finally my sister said, how'd she do what? And they said, how did she grow these gold? And my sister told me, and I said, oh my God. I said, I hope you told, if I could grow them gold, I wouldn't be here. I said, yeah, I said, are you kidding? She said, no. They were going, how did she grow them gold? I mean, let me tell you, you hear all kinds of stuff. You're thinking, did I hear that right? I mean, we got a big laugh at it. Do you see my ribbon scissors anywhere? They're buried.
Oh, they're up on the grate. Up on the
Okay, there they are. Yeah, how did she grow them gold? That was hysterical. And then I always love the one where this customer, was trying to decide on something, and I'm trying to describe. Well, I'm very visual, but I just can't picture it. And I'm thinking, I thought that was the same thing. Yeah, I'm very visual. I just can't picture it. So I'm thinking, oh my God, how do I explain this? Oh, yeah.
Did you hear the one on the radio that the woman was calling in? I don't remember the beginning part, but she said all the deer that are being killed, if they would just move the sign for deer crossing, then the deer will know how to cross.
Oh Lord.
The man on the in the
Uh-huh.
radio station was trying to keep his composure.
Yes.
The woman next to him was laying on the table, rolling.
I'm sure.
And she kept saying, but we don't want the deer to get killed if they just move the sign.
Do that for box turtles too.
Yes. Oh gosh. Well, I feel bad for the deer because most people don't know that deer are not nomadic. They only travel usually a 3-mile circumference in their whole life. So when you take away their habitat and mow down the woods for subdivision, they don't know where to go. That's one of the problems, and then you see them out there looking around, so pitiful, with their babies behind them, like, what do we do now? Oh, I know. I hate to see it too. They're such beautiful creatures.
Never want to mess with a mama deer.
No.
Have you seen that video of the babies crying on the front porch with the mom, and the mama deer runs up thinking it's her baby?
Oh,
The baby,
a real baby. I've seen some of bears with their cubs, going up on the front porch. But they didn't buy anything. One man was sitting in a rocking chair on the front porch, that's right, and he taped them. But they just came up, mama bear looked around, baby bears looked around, there were 2 baby bears, and then they went on. They didn't, and I know she could have smelled him, but he said he knew he couldn't get up and run because that would draw their attention. But they never, they just sat there. I'm going to turn around, then I'm going to do a little bit to the back for you so if you put it in front of a mirror, there you go. And see, everybody's intimidated about big, but big is easier because you can just throw it all in there, and it'll look good no matter what you do. Okay. Nope. What do you think? I think I got it. Well, we did good. My leg does better standing for a long time than sitting for a long time. So, because Lindsay said, "Do you need to sit down?" I said, "Oh no, I can't sit down. I can't sit down anyway. Doing this too hard." Okay, now the back is ready. In case you put it in front of a mirror or somewhere you see the back. It's heavy. It's in a waterproof ceramic container. So, you want to read it?
834-7701.
Oh, good. Congratulations. Well, thank you, everybody. I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a happy holiday and hopefully a peaceful New Year.
We hope to see you at our holiday open house on Thursday from 5 to 7. Please give Jan one more big round of applause.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.